Here's your one truth to carry forward. Burning out quietly is still burning out. The fact that you're still functioning doesn't mean you're fine. This is high functioning burnout. That's what I'm calling it. Most of the women I work with are still showing up, still delivering. And right now, your identity is tied to overproducing no matter what. Underneath all of that, completely, quietly falling apart. The joy is gone. And the hardest part that keeps you stuck is that you can't even give yourself permission to say that you're burned out because you're loyal to your identity of, I'm fine. What do you say if someone asked what's actually draining you? Get specific because you can't fix what you don't name. So I want to give you a framework for understanding what's actually depleting you. Depleter 1. Enough already. You've worked harder, stayed later, smiled through it, you've shrunk yourself, you've overexplained yourself, you've apologized for yourself, and still walked away feeling like you were the problem. You weren't. You've been playing by rules that were never designed for you, and you're exhausted. You're done. I'm Coach Mo Fall, and this is Enough Already, the podcast for women who are done performing and ready to heal, reclaim, and redefine what their life actually gets to look like when you step into your real power. No more shrinking, no more trying to be less or more, or whatever they need you to be. We're going to name exactly what happened, get free from it, and figure out what comes next. This is your space. This is your moment. Women, we are rising. Let's get into it. You are really, really good. You're hitting every metric. You're running your team well, showing up for every meeting. You haven't had that joy in 14 months. And my client didn't even think she was burned out because burned out in her mind looked like someone who couldn't function, and she was functioning just fine. That's the one I want to talk to today. That burnout is invisible, partly because you're so good at pushing through it, partly because you really don't understand what's going on and when. Your body has ignored the signal for so long, and you just keep going. Empty, no gas, oil light on, radiator overheating. Do we have radiators anymore in cars? So this is high functioning burnout. That's what I'm calling it because I need to have a name for it so that you can recognize it. Labels are important for things for us to help put it in what category and understand it. I coined job trauma a couple of years ago because I wanted women to understand that chronic stress over a period of time, including triggering events that happen over and over, boss yelling, as an example, colleague yelling, those are types of things that cause job trauma. So I want you to have a name for it because the picture we have of burnout is too exaggerated. Someone who can't get out of bed, falling apart visibly, who's clearly not coping. That's not what most professional women I work with are dealing with. Most of the women I work with are still showing up, still delivering, even though it's hard and heavy, still being the person everyone around them depends on, because you will be loyal to your identity until the very last breath. And right now, your identity is tied to overproducing no matter what, not letting anyone down no matter what. But that doesn't include you, does it? Underneath all of that, completely, quietly falling apart. The joy is gone. When was the last time you really enjoyed getting together with your girlfriends? Sinking yourself into a novel and being taken away. The energy you're working with right now is completely manufactured. The version of you that used to genuinely get excited about an idea, a challenge, a win, that version feels far, far away. And I know what that feels like. I can remember days, weeks, months, hoping I got laid off, hoping for a break that I couldn't produce myself. Well, you know what? A couple of those hopings turned into reality. And I was on the verge many times, perhaps you can relate to this, where I was so irritable and so cranky, my fuse was so little, I wasn't who I wanted to be in high stakes meetings with my team. I wasn't as empowering as I wanted to be. So when you're performing under this perfectional functioning while internally running on flames, you're thinking you have nothing left to go, and you're thinking 20 years of this, I can't do it. So then the romance of a laptop lifestyle, the romance is something that's even harder, starting your own business, that part starts to feel easier. And the hardest part that keeps you stuck is that you can't even give yourself permission to say that you're burned out because you're loyal to your identity of, I'm fine. You're still going. And other people have it so much worse. At least I have a job. I know. I've been there and I've coached over 2,000 clients on this exact same topic. So we're retiring the logic. It's not really logic. We're retiring the commitment that you have to always be the one, no matter how you feel, no matter how depleted. High functioning burnout is real. It is costly, and it has a way of showing up one day as something that doesn't look like a choice anymore. It's a have to. It's a must. So let's talk about it before you get there. And if you are there, listen in and let's shift something today. So let me describe, if you recognize yourself here. So on Sunday, the dread starts. Well, maybe Saturday afternoon, maybe before you go to bed on Saturday. That low level anxiety that sits under everything on the weekend because Monday's coming and your body already knows what Monday feels like. Your body has a very strong memory. And when you have the inability to be present for your weekend, because this is what's going on, you're at dinner and you're thinking about that email, you're drifting off into that conversation with your boss, you're in the meeting and you're thinking about dinner. Either way, you're not actually anywhere. You're in this permanent state of being in two crises at the same time, two crises ahead of yourself or two crises behind. So small things hit differently. Things that used to roll off of you. Passive aggressive comment from a colleague, a meeting that could have been an email, a decision that gets made without you lands so much bigger. And that's not you becoming resilient. That's your system telling you it's at capacity, overflowing with too much, and the good stuff stops landing. You're not even present with your family. Your kids are saying, Mom, when can you be with us? And you're like, well, I'm right here, honey. No, you're on your phone. No, you're on your computer. So a compliment from a client or a project that goes well and your boss says, well done, you can't even, that can't even land because you're at capacity. And the stuff that you want to be present for isn't happening either. So a win that would have made you feel great 18 months ago feels like, okay, what's next? Nothing sticking because there's no room for it to land. And this one is important. You stop doing the things that used to be just for you. And I'm not talking about mani-pedis because that's easy to schedule in and horseshoeing in on the weekend. The workout that you loved, the thing that you read that had nothing to do with work, the conversation that wasn't a strategy session. Perhaps you're singing or music or gardening. Those got cut first because they seemed optional. And that cutting off of the things that restore you is actually how burnout begins to take root because it turns into something you can't climb out of as easily. So I want to give you a framework for understanding what's actually depleting you because burnout isn't one thing and then a recovery plan to match the source. Depleter 1, volume depletion. This is the most straightforward one. You're doing too much, more than your capacity, more than is sustainable, and more than any human being should be managing at once. The solution isn't structural. Something has to come off the plate, not temporarily, structurally. Depleter 2, meaning depletion. This one's more complicated. It's not the amount of work that's killing you. It's that the work has stopped connecting to anything you actually care about. You got into this field or this role because something mattered. And at some point you looked up and the work had become entirely about the doing of it, the metrics, the deliverables, the performance, completely disconnected with the why underneath it, why you became an engineer, what turned you on so much about being an accountant and providing solutions and numbers for people. That kind is quieter and lonelier and harder to fix with a vacation. Depleter 3, autonomy depletion. You're competent, you know what you're doing, and you're constantly having to get approval to justify your decisions, work around people who have authority over your work, and use it in ways that just don't make sense, like having your expertise consistently overridden or underutilized is exhausting in a way that's hard to articulate and easy to miss as just being frustrated. And I find that this one's trickier also because when you're burnt out, you're afraid of making decisions and you're more likely to seek out guidance, direction, justification for what you're wanting to do. You don't want to be at risk 1 millimeter more. So which one of these resonates? Most people are dealing with a combination, but knowing the primary source changes everything about what the recovery actually looks like. So let's go into that. I'm going to say something that might surprise you. Recovery from high functioning burnout doesn't start with a vacation. It starts with honesty. The first honest conversation is with yourself. What am I actually depleted by? And you may have to sit with this for a little bit longer than is comfortable because you're going to have superficial answers at first. So, what I tell people when they ask what's really going on, the second conversation is about what you've been refusing to ask for. Because one of the most consistent things I see in burnt out overachievers is that they've been white knuckling it for so long and they've forgotten how to ask for what they need. Not just like asking for help. Like if you need an extra FTE in your department to focus on this particular extra thing that you were given 6 months ago, and that's a completely legitimate requirement and every other department got someone, you need to step into that. But when you're depleted, you can't. You're afraid of losing your job and at the same time secretly wanting to. So you have to consider asking for what you want is also asking for what you need. So if you needed to say no to something 8 months ago and you didn't, and you've been building this load quietly and drowning in it, and you still don't want to ask for help because that would mean admitting how close you are to the edge. And admitting is the beginning of fixing it. So you have to admit it first to fix it. The third one is protecting the restorative things, not the productivity rituals, the things that genuinely refill you. Whatever it was before the burnout, ate at it. That goes back on the schedule, non-negotiably, not as a reward for getting through everything else, as a condition of being able to continue doing everything else. You have to have the rest, relaxation, and restoration so that you can feel the rejuvenation. Again, rest is not a reward. Just like sleep is not a reward, eating is not a reward. These are things that are necessary for our human condition, our human functioning. You're a body first, a mind, and a soul. And if you don't take care of your body, if your body is worn out, the mind and the soul are second rate. So it's part of your infrastructure of living. Now, here's exactly why I created my AI coaching agent, Mobi. It's there for the 11 p.m. moments. It's there to help you reorganize yourself at night before you go to bed so that you can get sleep. When the exhaustion is the loudest and the spiral is starting and there's no one you can call, don't worry about getting the wrong advice, or don't worry about feeling bad or that you're complaining or bitching to your friends to ask for some help. Mobi's built to help you identify which type of depletion you have, dealing with it, and helping you have a recovery plan, what it actually looks like inside your real life, not some idealized version of it that we ripped from a magazine on burnout. No, suddenly having a plan that fits you because Mobi knows you, and suddenly having unlimited time and energy in your real life with your real constraints. So, in other words, feeling of openness and freedom. The conversation to move yourself out of high achiever burnout can be had with Mobi tonight, tomorrow, before your next meeting, and consistently throughout the day so that you can begin to alleviate the pressure and stress that you're putting on yourself. So let's go to one thing to stop, one thing to start, and your truth to carry forward. Stop cutting the restorative things. They're not optional. They're not extras. They're what makes everything else possible. When you cut them to make room for work, you're borrowing against yourself, and the bill always comes due. One thing to start. This week, answer one honest question in writing, sitting with it in your journal. What am I depleted by, really? And your first answer may not be the answer. It may be the thing after the first answer. Now, what do you say if someone asked in passing what's actually draining you? Volume, meaning, autonomy. Get specific, because you can't fix what you don't name. And if you feel like your first answer on that, written in your journal, is hauntingly not exactly it, sit with it a little bit longer. Sit with it. Sit with your truth and your honesty. So here's your one truth to carry forward. Burning out quietly is still burning out. The fact that you're still functioning doesn't mean you're fine. Your body and your soul have been keeping score, even when your mind was telling you, push through it. Listen to your body. Listen to what's really going on inside. But you have to stop for just a few minutes. So before you go, if today's episode landed somewhere real, if something stirred you that you haven't had space to look at, Mobi is there for you tonight. Not next week, tonight. As I mentioned earlier, my AI-powered coaching platform built on my 12 years of methodology and coaching 2,000 clients. She'll meet you where you are. She'll ask you the questions that cut through the noise. She'll actually also ask you how you're doing the next day, 2 days later. She's going to follow up with you because she has inside her the same caring methodology that I have. And she's going to help you do the soul work before the strategy. And that's what actually changes things, to make sure that you have guidance and support and direction on the things that matter deeply before you execute. So the link is in the show notes. Soul first, strategy next, every time. And if you love this episode, please like it, give us a review, share it with one of your friends who could really use the same exact insight. We'll see you on the next episode. If today's episode hit home, share it with a woman who needs to hear it. Because the best thing we can do is make sure no woman sits alone in an experience that has a name. You've been listening to enough already. I'm Coach Mo Fall. Please subscribe and like and comment so this can be sent to more women just like you who needs to hear there is a different way. Take good care.